I'm going to share with you 5 simple ways you could increase your Social Security benefits. As the owner of a wealth management practice and a finance lecturer at a Big Ten university, I find that many of my clients know some of what I'm going to share, but they don't know everything. So be sure to stick to the end. Oh, and if you find anything useful, please like and subscribe. There are some basics we need to nail down first. The first thing is your full retirement age. So, for most people watching this, your full retirement age is 67. You can take Social Security earlier than this or later, which we'll get into, but you have to bookmark this full retirement age number because so many things are based on and anchored to it. This would include your primary insurance amount or your PIA. This is essentially just the amount you'll receive from Social Security at your full retirement age. The second basic that we need to understand is how Social Security is funded. As you may know, 6.2% of your paycheck is taxed to fund Social Security. Many don't know this, but your employer also pays in 6.2%. If you're self employed like me, I pay both. This tax is only up to a certain income limit. In 2025, that limit is $176,100, meaning anything you make over that limit is not subject to Social Security tax, that 6.2%. This figure also adjusts for inflation. This chart is from the SSA website showing the year and the maximum earnings you had subject to Social Security taxes. Now, if you watch the news, you've probably heard that Social Security will run out of money. That's not entirely true. What's happening is that we are spending more on Social Security than we are collecting via taxes. Here's a chart showing that over time. Around 2019, we began spending more on Social Security than we take in, primarily due to the US population being heavily weighted toward baby boomers. Here's a graph I show in my personal finance class about a population pyramid. As you can see, there's a lot of people at the top and not near as many at the bottom to support those at the top. This is in contrast to other years in our history, like this example from 1980. The current best estimates are that if nothing changes, Social Security benefits will decrease by 23% in 2033 once the trust fund runs out. This trust fund is just where money allegedly went when there was a surplus in Social Security tax compared to what we were spending on Social Security. So, is there a chance that your benefits will be reduced in the future? Yeah, there is a chance, but it won't be $0 in a benefit like many headlines will make you believe. The third thing we need to know is how benefits are calculated. Again, this will be important later on. Social Security is based on your 35 highest earning years. The more you made, the higher your benefit. So now you may be wondering how this works given inflation. What you made in 1980 could have been a lot for that time, but given inflation, that number is much lower than it would be today. Good news for you, they adjust those highest 35 years by inflation. What's really important is what happens if you don't have 35 full years of working. The Social Security Administration puts an income of 0 for those years until they get to 35 total years. So pocket that, it'll be really important later on in the video. The fourth thing, your benefits and earnings are what's called means tested. This is where you will receive more from Social Security relative to your income the less you make. I know it's complicated, but here's what I mean. Let's say one person has always been taxed at the maximum for Social Security, which this year is $176,100. Let's say someone always had half the maximum. So in our example, $88,050. One would naturally assume that the second person would receive half the Social Security benefit of the other person. Wrong, you are. I tried running the numbers on this to the best of my ability. The higher earner would have a monthly benefit at full retirement age of $4,018. The earner who always was half the maximum would receive $3,059. So the 50% earner would actually receive a benefit of about 76% of the higher earner. This is all due to the average indexed monthly earnings, or what I call AIM, in their breakpoints. They take your highest 35 years, index it for inflation, find the monthly figure, then apply these breakpoints. So, what are these breakpoints? I'll get into that. For the first $1,226, the worker receives 90% of that in Social Security benefits. Between $1,226 and $7,391, the worker receives 32% of that amount in benefits. And anything above $7,391 up to the cap is a 15% benefit for Social Security. Here's a chart I show in my personal finance class to nail the point home. If you make more, you receive less of a benefit relative to how much money you put in. Now, before you get upset, it's important to know the purpose of Social Security. I talk about this in my class. So here's a quote that I give from FDR, who signed Social Security into law in 1935. We can never ensure 100% of the population against 100% of the hazards and vicissitudes of life, but we have tried to frame a law which will give some measure of protection to the average citizen and to his family against the loss of a job and against poverty-ridden old age. To summarize, the intention of Social Security is to keep elderly people out of poverty, not to give them a lavish retirement. So if you are mad about anything, don't yell at me. Contact your congressional representative. They don't seem to answer my calls, but maybe they'll answer yours. Okay, now we have that base. We can look at these 5 simple ways to improve your benefit. Real quick, if you've learned anything so far, please like and subscribe. The first way to maximize your benefit, work a full 35 years. If you haven't worked a full 35 years, this may seem daunting. You probably already retired or are about to, and that sounds miserable to keep working, but hold up. If you recall, Social Security inputs a 0, big fat 0, into your earnings record to fill up their highest 35 years of earnings. If you also recall, your first earnings are weighted much more heavily for Social Security than your earnings at higher levels. So if you have a 0 on your earnings record, which you can find at ssa.gov to go look at your earnings record, you could potentially get just a part-time job and really boost your benefit. And getting a part-time job may even be a great decision for you in retirement, as it provides some extra income and potentially purpose. Hear me out. What I'm not saying is that you need to get back to your full-time, stressful corporate job, but maybe you can find something that can help you alter your earnings record and get rid of those big fat zeros. The second way to maximize your benefit, wait longer to collect. As mentioned before, you receive a heavily reduced monthly benefit if you take Social Security before full retirement age, which is typically age 67. The amount of this reduction is large, as noted by the chart that you see on the screen, but you also receive a significant boost if you wait past your full retirement age. For each year you wait past full retirement age, which is 67 for most people watching this, it's an 8% boost in your benefit. As you can see, taking at 62 would result in a 30% reduction in benefits, but waiting until 70 would be a 24% increase in benefits. To decide what is best for you, you'll need to evaluate your own longevity and other factors such as your income sources and your spouse's situation. If you have already taken Social Security, but watch this video and decide it may be best to delay your benefits, please watch this other video I made. I have a link somewhere on the screen because your options are limited and they also may be time sensitive if you actually want to go back and reverse taking your Social Security benefit in order to get those delayed retirement credits. Third way to maximize your benefit, check your earnings record for errors. Although your earnings record is likely correct with the SSA, there can be errors made on their part or by a previous employer, or you may not have reported all of the appropriate tax information if you're self-employed. If you change your name due to marriage or divorce, that can also mess up the system and result in earnings not being recorded accurately. Again, this is rare, but it does happen. It actually happens enough that they have a path to correct your earnings record. If you notice something is off, you can certainly just call SSA and see if they can put you in the right direction. A client of mine recently tried calling and the wait times were over 2 hours, so be warned on that. But you could jump the line and fill out form SSA 7008. Go to Google, type that in, and it'll be the first thing that pops up. There are instructions on the form for what proof is needed and what the next steps are. The fourth way to maximize your benefits, maximize spousal benefits. I would argue that this is the most powerful part of Social Security, and some don't take advantage of it. Many don't know, but generally you are eligible to receive up to 50% of your spouse's Social Security benefit at full retirement age. So if your benefit is lower than 50% of your spouse's, you could actually get a boost to 50% of your spouse's benefit. This is most applicable to women who were homemakers. They contributed a ton to their family, including maybe even allowing their husband to make more money than if he had some of those household responsibilities that she took over. But she technically doesn't have any earnings record, or if she does, it's very minimal. This part of Social Security allows for those earnings, in my opinion, to be recognized. Planning options here get very complicated, but very powerful at the same time. So I made a whole video on that. You can check it out somewhere on the screen. Of note, the spouse with the higher earnings record must be receiving their Social Security benefit before the other spouse can begin taking their spousal benefits. Second of note, this can even apply to ex-spouses if you were married for 10 years or more, which is a big deal and could help out quite a bit. The fifth way to maximize your benefit, maximize survivor benefits. So this is different than the spousal benefit. As mentioned, the spousal benefit is where you can receive up to 50% of the higher earning spouse's benefit. The survivor benefit is different. If one spouse dies, the surviving spouse can receive 100% of the other spouse's benefit in lieu of their own benefit. The planning here gets very interesting. I have a client, she's a widow in her early 60s. She can collect survivor benefits now, all while her own personal benefit continues to grow with the delayed retirement credits. By the time she's 70, her benefit will be larger than the survivor benefit, at which point she can then switch to begin taking her own benefit at that time. So, this entire time, she was able to receive some income from the survivor benefit while maximizing her own benefit. Ultimately, Social Security is still just one part of your financial picture and shouldn't be decided in a vacuum. If you want to see if you're a good fit for our firm, please see the link in the description below. If you learned something today, please like and subscribe. I appreciate it. Have a good one.